it's Amanda here from DMG with the latest book from Future Press featuring the wonderful game Horizon Forbidden West. I have actually now played the game. The game has been out a while. The book was delayed. I'm not quite sure why. It was supposed to be originally out in March and we are now in May of 2022. But it is out and it is, as always, absolutely stunning. So I thought it would be good to take a look, as I've done in the past, at the book and what's inside and just how they sort of set things out. Obviously there's potential for spoilers. I do try to stay at like the beginning of sections, so if you're at something you're not going to see anything hopefully that's so far into the game that it's like a complete spoiler. It's usually something that you're going to see right at the beginning anyway, so it will give you an idea of what the rest of that section will look like without hopefully giving too much away about anything you don't want to see. So let's take a look at the book in general first of all. So first of all, it is heavy. It is a big book. It is hardback, very solid. So it comes with a ribbon to mark your place, which is really handy, and as always the actual paper quality is gorgeous. You can see it's coated. It's really nice quality. It doesn't come with like a separate map or anything like that, which the previous edition did have, I believe, another sort of big sheet that was a map. This one doesn't have that, but to be honest, for me, I'm not unhappy about that because I just didn't find I used it because it was just too big, too wieldy. So what we've got is different chapters. We've got an introduction just explaining about the book, then we've got the different chapters. So down here is a key to the maps, so that when you actually get to the section where the maps are, it, rather than having the legend on each page, they've put it where you can easily find it and nip back and have a look, because obviously there's lots of maps and they're trying to fill the page with the maps so that you can see them really clearly rather than having the legend down each side. So I think that's really helpful to have it at the beginning of the book where it's super easy to find. Then we've got the different chapters. So we've got, I'll just run through them quickly. We've got training manuals, so obviously just the usual going through the mechanics of how you play the game. Gearing up, so telling you about the skills and equipment you'll need. Hunting targets, so this is basically looking at your enemies, human and machine. Hunting and gathering, so optimal routes through quests and activities with tips for gathering resources and upgrading weapons, and also a region guide section with maps of the entire Forbidden West, so that's really cool. Then we have the actual quest and activity section, so that literally has, because as with Zero Dawn, there's different types, so there's, you know, the actual quests, the side quests, errands, etc, etc. I won't go into the detail of those because they have expanded upon that, and again, I don't want to spoil that for anybody, but there is more to it than they had originally because they have made changes. They're, in my opinion, good changes. They haven't like made it so different that you feel like, oh, this is a completely different game, but they've just changed things that weren't quite working perhaps as well as they could be. And then finally we have the appendices, and that's split into the two parts. It says the first will be looking at trophies and how to unlock them, and the second is lots of nice behind the scenes interviews with the developers at Guerrilla Games. I have to say that's always a section I jump to because I love reading the interviews from them. It's so interesting. So then over this side it tells you a table of contents. So this is like your overview of your chapters and just kind of a little paragraph about what they are. And then on this side we actually have like chapter 1 training manual, and then it will say, right, getting started is page 6, a living world page 16, health, etc. So it will then specify in a proper like table of contents there. It also talks here about the fact that there is a huge amount more material than they could have put in the book, but it would have been so ridiculously big, which it is already a big book. So they've got a lot of material that they've added that's online, and they've got a QR code here that you can use to get to that, or you can just go to their website and jump in that way. So that's quite nice to know that there's even more material to have a look at if you want to. So that's the table of contents and stuff. So then we go to chapter 1, which is training manual, and you've got two very familiar characters there. I have to say I replayed Zero Dawn just before the launch of Forbidden West so that I was so up to date with it, because I thought it's been 5 years since I played this and there's going to be people and comments that perhaps are going to be relevant. So I would definitely recommend, if you haven't played Forbidden West, I would definitely replay Zero Dawn. I definitely felt that enhanced my experience of Forbidden West. I don't think it's necessary, but I do feel it helped. Anyway, back to the book. So we're going on to training manuals. So it's the usual thing we've got here. So it talks about the different, you know, saving, accessibility, the new controls and things with regards to accessibility, the different menus that are there, etc. And obviously the images are really fun. So here we have the essentials. So this is looking at the HUD. So here they're just showing you a picture of the screen. Now, not all of this comes up at once. It does now disappear. You can choose to have it up all at once. It's one of the options. But you can also choose to have it mostly not there, so that you have a pretty clear screen, which is really nice. And then as you touch something, it sort of pops up, which is quite handy. But it's just telling you, A here, A is your health bar. Your compass is B, etc. So you've got all of these different bits here, and it's just explaining what they all are, which I always find quite helpful, because sometimes you look at that and you're like, what the heck's that line mean? And so it's quite handy to have that there. So then back to the main page here, we've just got different things again about the basically the mechanics. So we've got navigation, traversal, items and inventory, a living world. So it's just explaining here, by this it means the fact that now we have night and day. It literally moves through that. We have different weather, etc. So it's just explaining how that all works, and then talks about the environment, so ladders, zip lines, etc. Again, I don't want to say too much because there's some new features that I think is nice to discover as you go along and do that, so I don't want to spoil it. But just going safe here, where you've probably seen things like chests and stuff before, it's just showing you a nice little picture and then a little description, etc. So it's sort of just giving you some information on all of that, which is really helpful. And then we've got health, so it's talking about health potions, etc. How to use your weapons, critical hits, different types of damage. So again, I won't do too much on that because there's some new bits on that, and your elemental damage as well, so there's some new things there as well, but it's just going into that. So for example, we all know from before that we had fire, so it's just again showing a little picture and then just some stats and some information on that, which is helpful to see and just explains what these different elements are. Then we've got statuses and states, and so that's just again same sort of thing, just explaining it, giving you some information about each one. And then we've got about stealth and different tactics with regards to stealth, and about detection and all of that. So that is your kind of first chapter that's just getting into how the game works, really. So now we're going to chapter 2, which, I mean, look at these images, and they just look like this as well, which is amazing. So it says gearing up, and basically it's a chapter about skills and equipment. That's really where it goes to. So here we've got all of the different skills, and it's talking about your starting skills and then acquiring different skills like passive squills, I can't speak, passive skills, etc. And then it goes into information about what those things are with regard to how that's a skill, how do you acquire it, etc. So it's just looking into that there. Again, I don't want to show too much, but it's just going down those. So you know, you'll look at that and you'll go, okay, so it's +1 if you are wearing that outfit or if you've acquired that skill, etc. So it's just explaining all of that. And then you've got your weapon techniques, because there's some new things there. Again, I don't want to spoil it by going into it, but it's explaining those different techniques. Now obviously you've got your normal things, so like here we've got your stamina. So again, you'll know, obviously you get stamina, so it's just looking at your stats again, imagery, and then some of, on the other page is the new stuff, which it's hard not to give it away. So then, so this, it's just, yeah, that's your general chapter. Now we're getting to the actual section in the skill tree. So this is like your warrior section, and it tells you about those active skills that you can acquire. And it's just going to, I'm trying to find one that isn't too going to give anything too much away. Here we go, melee damage, that's obvious one. So for example, this is passive, but it's the same as your active. So again, you have here the different levels, what that means, and just an explanation of that there. So that's nice and clear, and that's the same, and then that's the same for all the different ones on those pages. Some have obviously more information than others and more lines with regard to the stats, but that's all of those. Then you've got the next skill tree, and carrying on all the way, trying to find that, there we go. So that's all your skills. Again, I don't want to particularly show too much of that, so we're going to jump now to weapons. And again, it's just explaining here how that all works. So you've got upgrading your gear, aim assist, ammo costs, ammo tables, how that is working. I'm going to show you that one because that's an example. So it's just showing you, you know, for example, arrows, the damage, the tear, crafting time, because now we can craft, etc. So it's just giving you details there. And then there's perks. So again, when you can upgrade your weapon, and they've changed how that looks. So it looks like that now when you do that, which is a really sort of nice visual. I think it just made a difference to how it looks, and I think that's quite helpful. And then it tells you the pieces of equipment or crafting materials you need to upgrade to that next level if you aren't able to do so. So that's kind of cool. And then down here it's just telling you, for example, here we've got hunter bow, and then, you know, if you've added that particular perk, what that additional damage does, etc. So that's just explaining those percentages to you. So that's just all of those there. So perks and coils. And then we've got all about the coils. I'm not going to go into that, but it's just giving you all those stats again. So then we get into the actual weapons themselves, because this was kind of the explanation and just how it all was going to work. So now the first weapon here is the spear. We know that she has a spear, so that's not a surprise. So then it just explains about the weapon. It explains about the noise levels, so that if you've got stealth, you know how that affects, about targeting, the different types of attacks, the stats, and as I said, the different types of attack. There's lots of info here about the different types of attack, because there's a lot more there now than there was before, as you can see. Again, I don't particularly want to show you that because I don't want to spoil those, even on the spear with the new stuff that's coming. I don't want to give anything too much away. So then we go on to the next weapon, which is your bow. And exactly the same thing here, you know, just more stats, more information, etc. Again, just different types of the bow, the hunter bow, and their stats, because there's all different types of a hunter bow, so as there was in Zero Dawn. So it just explains, and the different colours are the different rarities, and then you go right up to legendary here, and there we, you know, it's the same again, all the stats on that. So that is then all our weapons. Again, I don't want to spoil by going and showing you too many of those, so I'm going to jump. So then we have a section about dyes and face paints. Again, I don't think that's probably a surprise that there's face paints, because we've seen that on the trailers. But there's lots of dyes where you can, I don't think this is a major spoiler, but you can collect things out in the wilds, crafting items that allow you to customize your outfits, which is really, really cool, because some of them were really dire, weren't they, before, color-wise. So you can even end up with putting her in a bright pink outfit if you so desire. There you go, look. So it's really fun to be able to do that. It doesn't have any effect on the actual stats of the item, it's just how it looks. So it's kind of fun. And the same with the face paints. That doesn't come till a bit later, but it's available, and it's again something that you collect when you're out and about, and it just makes it something fun really, which is nice. So it's just telling you what they are here, different colours, etc., and different faces, and how you unlock them, etc. So that's kind of cool. So this is tools basically. So hunter's kits, recipes, so like things like health potions, stamina potions, etc. So this is just an overview of that. And then traps, and again the different types of traps and the statistics here. I don't again want to get too close. Different more stuff here, and then we've got special gear. I don't want to go into this because I definitely don't want to spoil it, but I'm sure you get the principle by now. You get the general overview of that particular piece of gear, and then you get some actual details on using it, etc. But I definitely do not want to spoil that for you, because there's some really cool stuff coming. So then we have hunting targets. So basically your enemies, human or mechanical beasties, and again we've got an overview of the machines and stuff here. So just looking at generalizations, so about how to tag your enemy, what the different indicators mean, etc. So for example here you've got like the different indicators that you see, so you can have an idea, and things like sound cues, etc. So that's just general helpful information. Armor plates, machine evolution, etc., etc. Apex machines, rebel machines, etc. again. So Apex machines are machines that are ones that you've seen before, but they are like top of their particular food chain in that particular machine category, so they're stronger. And so it's just explaining about that. The machine classes: heavy weapons, transport, combat, acquisition, scavengers. It's giving you a diagram here, hopefully you can see that, of the sort of view of the machines, you know, their sort of vision view, etc. So that's quite helpful to know. And it's sort of and then about their how they can hear, you know, and what, so certain weather conditions might affect their sight, or day or night might affect their ability to see you. Their if it's particularly noisy weather like a storm, it might affect whether they hear you, etc. Then we've got the different combat behaviors, just again generalizations at this point, but just sort of like, you know, jumping. We've got mounts, because obviously, as you know, we can ride some of these machines, and overriding, etc., repairing, things like that. Then we go into the actual machines themselves. So we've got the generalization, and then we're going into the specifics. So I'm going to start with the basic here. So on the first page, again, it just sets out how it's going to go through it and how each page will cover a machine. So we're going to take a look at that bit first. So we've got here about the data, so it tells you on each of the pages we follow that we'll present a lot of useful charts and data on each of them, deadly machines, and then it just is explaining, here is the diagram, and then on here it's saying, you know, letter A on the diagram here will be telling you about whatever, and components, blah blah blah, unique loot, elemental, attack data, trigger ranges, etc. So it will go into that information. So for example, here you'll see it will have on the page the diagram with the different information, and then like here, A, tusks, tear off to get a key upgrade resource. So it will tell you that, and then it goes down there to tell you like unique loot that you could get from that, the different attacks that machine will do. And then at the very bottom here we've got the hit zone that is with a little diagram as well, and the different types of damage according to I guess, let's have a look. So elemental resistances, so tell you how much build is required to trigger an elemental or status limit. So that will become clear what that means if you haven't played the game. It is very good at explaining itself. So this is just our generalization page, so it's just explaining it in general. Then we get to the specifics of the machine. So we're starting off here with the Scrounger and the Scrapper, which obviously we know about. If you've played the previous game, you know that they exist. So this is not going to give you any spoilers in that you should already know about these guys. So you start off with some really nice pictures. You've got some stats up the top here talking about, you know, normal Scrounger to Apex, and the same for your Scrapper. You've got your elemental types, damage type things here, a little paragraph about them. You've got some nice photos down the bottom just showing the different armor types that they come with. So you've got some pictures to give you some identification ideas, and again some more information at the bottom. Then we turn over and there's even more information about them. So we've just got here the Scrounger and just some stats about, well, so you're looking at, say, D, eye sensor, damage modifier, or A, power cell, ignite with shock arrow to trigger a chain reaction, or tear off for a chance loot upgrade resource. So it's just, I mean, giving you that kind of information. And then moving across the page, we've got here some stats on the unique loot of your Scrounger and the Scrapper, and then we've got the different attacks, and that goes all the way down here, all the way across down to this page as well. And we're still on these guys, so we've got then just more information, any special abilities they have, loadout suggestions, and then strategies on how to handle them. So strategy general, strategy Scrounger, strategy Scrappers, and then also a little bit of extra information here if they were Apex Scroungers or Scrappers. So just that there, and that is, I don't know if you can see, but that's just sort of slightly highlighted in purple. Then we would turn over and we would get onto the next machine, but although it's you come across this new machine pretty promptly in the game, I don't want to show it to you because I don't want to give you any spoilers, and I know that we already know about Scrappers and Scroungers, so that's why I thought, well, that was a good one to start with, just to show you how this section works. So then we've got all sorts of machines, and I've got to find where they go up to. There's lots of new ones which are cool, and there's some old friends. Just making sure, yeah. So this then goes up. That is all the machines. So not many. And then we get on to human enemies. And very similar, we're looking at different tiers of health, armor, So there's some different things with armor going on. Again, don't want to go into that too much. So this is just your general information at this point in time. Different factions that you would come across, etc. And then the different types that you come across, so soldiers, archers. And then we get on to the actual specific people and enemies that we come across. And I don't particularly want to show you this too close up, but you've got obviously a nice picture here. You've got your overview, preparation for it, health and armor, unique attacks that are done by that enemy, strategy for dealing with said enemy, and also a little paragraph about who that person is. And so then we go on to the next chapter, which is hunting and gathering. So this is optimal routes through the quests, activities and tips for gathering resources and upgrading. The first page on here that we go into is a spoiler, and I don't want to show you that, so I will try and bypass it. But I think that we are going to have a problem. So we've got things like, let me try to get to a generic page. So we've got things like here about upgrading resources, farming that resources, outfit selections, different pouch upgrades, things like that, different builds. So it's looking at, you know, whether you want to be a melee or you know, what kind of build you want, because you can now make a choice that you could be a melee or a stealth build. Then we've got optimal progression. So it's basically just telling you, giving you a guide of where to go and what to do if you want to really make sure you go through in the most efficient way to collect, particularly if you're, I guess, after a platinum trophy, this would be really helpful. Then we get, once we got through that part, we get to the region guide with the data points. Then we move on to the maps. So we get gorgeous pictures of the maps. Now, I am just going to show you one very close up section that hopefully will mean very little, but just so you can see kind of what the map looks like. Now, some of this stuff is not on there when you're looking at the map on the screen. Some of those things are, but some of those are things that they've added because they want you to be able to find certain items or whatever. So some of those icons are from the book and some are from the game. So we've got all these maps, and again, I don't want you to see. So then we get onto plant life. So the different plant life and animals and fish. There's a lot more wildlife to hunt and different types of plant life to gather now that do different things when you're crafting, so that's helpful. So then we get on to quests and activities, and again, in all honesty, I'll look at the overview, but I think almost quest 1 will start off with almost giving a spoiler, so I'm just going to be very careful how I do this. So we're looking at this general overview of the quest guidelines here. So we've got the guidance, and so you can see here they've got a little picture of a page that's in the book. So it looks like they're going to put a map. Yeah, they've got a map, then they've got I'm trying to look at how they've done this. So then there's a step-by-step, because it's not in order. So A is your position points, so that's in your map. B is the mini-map, which is there. C is combat steps, so that's in that little coloured section there. D is just general steps to get through that section. E is your recommended level. F is availability, because certain areas don't get unlocked until you get to a certain point in the game. So then we've got rewards, strong enemies, preparation, etc. So that's what you've got there. So what we've got in the actual quests chapter is we've got main quests, side quests, errands, hunting grounds, and then I'm going to stop because I don't want you to see any of the other sections, because these are some new things that they've added to the quest sort of section that are different. So then we've got the first quest. I'm hoping, again, as I said, you can't really see too much on here, but it just gives you an idea. This is a main quest, so this is the first main quest. You've got your little map as we discussed. We've got the overview, preparation, step by step. It's got information where it's saying, for example, it's not required for you to kill X. I'm not going to say what it is. You can sneak around it. So it's highlighting that so you don't think, oh, it's obvious that you might think to read it. They also talked about the fact, you'll notice here, like, I'm hoping you can see anyway. Let me just, because that one I don't think is a problem. Can you see how that's like highlighted in blue? There's also purple and other colours. It explains at the very beginning of the book what those colours stand for, and it's just to make it easier when you're scanning a page if you're looking for some particular thing. So for example, data points are in purple, so if you're looking in a particular quest because you think, oh, I can't find this data point, I'm sure there's supposed to be one here, you can have a quick scan of the page. You don't have to read the whole thing in order to find that particular word that you're looking for. So lots of lovely images as well, and that goes on to this final page as well. So as always, lots and lots of information. As I said, I am not going to go into this in huge detail, but this is your main quests, side quests, beautiful, beautiful artwork as always. Don't want you to see too much. I have a feeling and then errands, and then I'm going to stop there because I don't want you to see the different, as I said, the different types of activities, because I don't want to give you a spoiler, but so you can see that that goes on for quite some time. So that section, that's all your quests and activities is in there, so that is a lot. Then we get to the appendices, and I'm sure you recognize that face, and then it tells you about like how to get your different trophies to make sure you've got everything. It also explains that none of the trophies are hidden behind difficulty levels, so you are able to get all the trophies even if you are playing on the easiest difficulty. It's not like sometimes you'll get one where it's like you have to play in order to get the trophy, you have to play it all the way through on super hard or something. So then we go back on and we get to our interviews, and then more, and then finally we get to the big index at the end, and then the credits and the thanks at the back, and then the back page, or the back cover I should say. And that was a very extensive look, but hopefully useful look at Horizon Forbidden West's guidebook from Future Press. So I hope you've enjoyed having a look at this. I hope I didn't give you too many spoilers, but I gave you enough so you could get a feel for the book and decide whether it's something you want to actually purchase. So I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you again soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.